The Vanishing Village of Anjikuni Lake. Chapter 1. The Frozen Wilderness. In northern Canada lies a remote, icy expanse known as Anjikuni Lake. It's a harsh, unforgiving place where freezing winds sweep across the land and snow blankets the ground for most of the year. The lake, isolated from most human contact, was once home to a small Inuit village, a place where people lived in tune with the land, relying on their knowledge of hunting, fishing, and seasonal rhythms to survive. In the early 20th century, few outside this close-knit community even knew of its existence. For those who called Anjikuni home, life was challenging but deeply rooted in tradition. The villagers had inherited their survival skills from generations before them, learning to respect the wild terrain they called home. But one fateful November day in 1930, everything changed, leaving behind one of Canada's greatest mysteries. Chapter 2. Joe LaBelle's Discovery. It was November 1930. Joe LaBelle, a seasoned fur trapper familiar with Canada's wilderness, made his way toward the Inuit village near Anjikuni Lake. He had visited before and knew the community well. As he approached, he expected to see the familiar signs of life: smoke from cooking fires, children playing, and villagers working. But as LaBelle drew closer, an eerie silence greeted him. LaBelle sensed something was wrong. The usual sounds of daily life, the laughter of children, the barking of dogs, were missing. When he reached the village, the silence felt heavier, unsettling. The huts stood empty, with not a single person in sight. Disturbed, LaBelle explored further, only to find a more disturbing scene. Inside the huts, he saw that everything had been abandoned mid-use. Half-cooked food was left in pots. Clothes lay folded as if ready to be worn, and weapons were neatly stored, essentials no one would leave behind. It looked as if the villagers had simply vanished in the middle of their everyday lives. Then LaBelle found something even more disturbing. Just outside the village, the graves of the villagers' ancestors had been opened. The stones marking these sacred burial sites were disturbed, and the graves lay exposed, empty. It was as if someone or something had deliberately unearthed the bodies. Fear rising, LaBelle quickly left the village and went to report what he had found. Chapter 3. The Police Investigation. After LaBelle shared his story, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police responded. Known for their dedication to keeping Canada's rural and isolated communities safe, they took LaBelle's report seriously and soon sent officers to investigate the strange events at Anjikuni Lake. Word of the vanishing village spread fast, and soon newspapers across Canada and beyond began covering the story. Reporters speculated on what could have happened, each publication adding fuel to the growing mystery. The police officers dispatched to Anjikuni Lake arrived to find a scene that seemed to confirm LaBelle's story. The huts lay empty, provisions were left untouched, and the village appeared abandoned. They noted that clothing, rifles, and food supplies were all present, items that villagers would have taken with them if they'd left voluntarily. The police continued their search around the village and discovered tracks leading away, but these tracks soon disappeared, fading into the frozen expanse of snow-covered land. They spoke to nearby communities and investigated further, but each inquiry seemed only to deepen the mystery. Later, however, the police released a statement dismissing the story. They claimed that no such disappearance had occurred, attributing the story to exaggeration or confusion. Some speculated that the police might have been reluctant to admit they couldn't solve the case, while others wondered if the officials were concealing what they'd found to avoid spreading fear. Chapter 4. Theories and Speculation. As news of the mysterious disappearance spread, people sought to make sense of what had happened at Anjikuni Lake. With so few clues and even fewer answers, speculation ran wild. Theories emerged ranging from plausible explanations grounded in human nature and survival to eerie tales drawn from Inuit legends. Over time, these ideas wove together, creating a web of possibilities that each seemed to add a layer of mystery to the story. Some suggested that the village might have simply migrated en masse. The Inuit were seasoned survivalists. They knew when conditions turned against them, and they'd often relocate to find better hunting grounds or safer shelter. It was possible, they said, that a harsh winter storm or a lack of resources had driven the villagers to seek refuge elsewhere. But why, others asked, would they abandon essential supplies? Why leave warm clothing, food, and even weapons? Items no one would leave behind in an emergency? This theory didn't sit well with many who knew the Arctic people's instinct for survival. Others turned to the possibility of natural disaster. Perhaps a sudden threat, a predator, an illness, or a looming avalanche had led the villagers to flee. The unforgiving climate and the isolation of the region meant that even a small crisis could demand drastic action. Yet there were no signs of an environmental disaster or threat, and the villagers' tracks led only a short distance from the huts before fading into the snow. If they had truly fled for their lives, where were they now? As the story traveled, it began to mingle with Inuit folklore, and soon the idea of supernatural forces entered the conversation. Inuit mythology tells of spirits haunting the northern wilderness, spirits that can lure people away into desolation. One such tale is of the Kalupalik, a sinister creature known to drag unsuspecting people into the icy depths, forever lost to the world above. Others spoke of the Torn Garsuk, a malevolent being capable of manipulating the minds of those who wander too far into the wilderness. Had these legendary spirits claimed the villagers, coaxing them away into the frozen unknown? For believers in the supernatural, the eerie silence that hung over the empty village lent weight to this explanation, suggesting that some darker power might have spirited the villagers away. Then there were those who looked to the skies for answers. By the 20th century, reports of unidentified flying objects were already making their way into newspapers and local gossip. Strange lights had been seen dancing over the Arctic regions for years, and in this case, some whispered that extraterrestrial visitors might be responsible. Perhaps the villagers had been taken by otherworldly beings, spirited away to another realm, or perhaps to some unknown corner of the universe. This theory quickly took hold among paranormal enthusiasts who pointed to similar disappearances in isolated regions around the world. Finally, some cast doubt on the entire story. The claim of the vanishing village had first been reported by Joe LaBelle and later spread by newspapers known for sensationalizing news from the Arctic frontier. Could it be, some wondered, that LaBelle had misinterpreted what he saw? Or worse, that the story had been embellished to create a dramatic tale for readers eager for adventure and mystery? The police investigation had initially confirmed LaBelle's account, but later officials dismissed the incident entirely, stating that no such disappearance had occurred. Had the story grown in the telling, woven into a legend over time, or had the police suppressed what they found to avoid a public scandal? Each theory, from the practical to the paranormal, left behind as many questions as answers. The more people speculated, the more the mystery seemed to deepen, with every explanation leaving room for doubt. Some possibilities offered a measure of comfort, while others suggested that unknown forces, natural, supernatural, or even extraterrestrial, might have intervened. The story became a puzzle with no clear solution, a tale that defied certainty and hinted at a truth perhaps beyond human understanding. Chapter 5. A Mystery That Endures. Despite the attempts to explain the mystery, the story of Anjikuni Lake has endured, remaining one of the most fascinating unsolved mysteries in Canadian folklore. Each new theory adds a layer of intrigue, but none provide a definitive answer. Over the years, this story has inspired countless articles, books, and documentaries, turning Anjikuni Lake into a site of speculation and legend. For many, the lake itself holds a certain power. Its remote location and the harshness of its environment add an element of the unknown. Some believe that the answer to what happened lies hidden within the lake's depths, or perhaps within the shadows of the surrounding forests. Whatever the case may be, Anjikuni Lake has taken on a symbolic role, a place where the lines between fact and folklore blur. In the end, the story of Anjikuni Lake is more than just a mystery. It's a tale that taps into our deepest fears and questions. What if people can simply disappear without a trace? What unknown forces lie just beyond our understanding? Chapter 6. The Legacy of Anjikuni Lake. Over the decades, the legend of the vanishing village has continued to grow. Today, Anjikuni Lake is known not just for its isolated beauty, but for the haunting story that surrounds it. The village has become a symbol of the unknown, a place where logic fails and imagination takes over. This enduring tale has become a staple in books about the paranormal, a topic of discussion in documentaries, and a favored story among conspiracy theorists and folklorists alike. For those who believe in the supernatural, Anjikuni Lake represents a place of powerful, unexplainable forces. For skeptics, it remains a cautionary tale of how easily stories can grow beyond their origins. Yet whether one believes in spirits, UFOs, or nothing at all, the mystery of Anjikuni Lake draws us in. It's a story that suggests that even in a world where technology helps us reach into the farthest corners, there are still places where mysteries endure, defying explanation. Anjikuni Lake stands as a reminder of the vast unknown, both in nature and in our imaginations, where stories like this can take root and grow. To some, it may be simply a tale of survival or a misunderstanding that spiraled into legend. To others, it speaks to a deeper mystery, touching on humanity's oldest fears of being lost to the wilderness or encountering forces we cannot comprehend. Regardless of the explanation, the vanishing village of Anjikuni Lake remains etched into Canadian folklore, a ghostly tale that has passed through generations, enduring despite the lack of concrete evidence. And so, the legacy of Anjikuni Lake continues to captivate and mystify. As each generation retells the story, new theories and questions arise, feeding the legend and leaving us with an unsettling but captivating truth. In some places, the past may never fully reveal its secrets,